Okay, so no music. Does me talking sound any better, or does me talking sound like bad too?
It's definitely better. What's up, Jazz? It's still staticky, but your voice audio is much better than the music for sure.
I love when things changed. I tried to do this earlier to make sure we didn't. I'm getting a bit of the shit face from Cat over here because my audio must sound terrible or something.
Yeah, you're breaking it in and out even with the wording with your.
Let's see if we could try a different mic, but I'm willing to bet that this is just going to be BlueStacks going forward today. I sounded better earlier, didn't I?
Yeah, you were fine earlier.
I didn't change anything. I left it open the entire time to try to prevent this. Let's see. Does it sound any different?
Still pretty static. Well, I say pretty staticky. Before it was the music, it was definitely in and out, like pretty bad. But now it's just staticky, and I'm not quite sure I'm getting every word of yours.
Great. Oh man, why can't things just work? And why? And where is everybody? There's no one in here. This is kind of sad. There's more people in my musical test room than this. I don't know how to fix the audio without leaving, and if I leave, then it's going to close the Twitter Spaces down. We'll have to remake it.
Is there another? Can you log in on another device? Like make another host?
Let me see if I can jump. I can jump on my phone, I guess. Trying to do this on desktop always fucks me. Can I join on my phone? Yeah, here we go. I'm going to try my phone. I'm going to make myself a host here.
Great.
Does this sound any better?
1000.
Okay. Well, now I'm on my phone then. So let's get are we recording right now? Is YouTube seeing all my foibles right now? Perfect. It's great. Okay. But I really want to get actually people in here because just having us by ourselves makes no sense.
It's not as fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Hey Evan, would you mind retweeting the Lightning Junkies thing for me, please? If both of you could, that'd be great.
Just looking for the post.
Try to get Justifer in here maybe too. I thought he was back.
I'll hit him up.
Where? All right.
Usually Twitter Spaces is not quite this bad, folks, but I think now that we've kind of gotten some momentum going, I think I'm ready to put on speaker voice here and get us started. What do you guys think here?
Love it. Got to get the speaker voice.
Yep, we gotta have the lightning voice. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started on this Lightning Friday episode. My name is Chaz. As you can see, I'm from Lightning Junkies. Joining me today, we have Flip from Carrot. How are you doing today, Flip?
Doing wonderful.
And
glad to talk about Lightning. Love Lightning.
Bitcoin, Lightning, gaming, Steam Deck. We're going to find a way to talk about all this stuff today. Evan Kaludis, the dude that does Zeus Wallet. How are you doing today, Evan?
Hey, doing great, Chaz. How about yourself? I'm pumped. We're back at it, Lightning Fridays. I'm just really pumped for the conference coming up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're gonna We're going to be doing the Bitcoins, the Lightnings, the Gamings, all kinds of stuff here today. Getting ready, getting geared up for Bitcoin 2022. Last year at Bitcoin 2021, I was kind of annoyed actually because went there, the free and open source tent or dome or whatever that was a bit of a nightmare.
It was.
Right.
We've got a bigger area this year. There's a long story about the domes. We didn't even get the right size domes. They didn't ship the right. Doesn't matter. But this year we're making it up. There will be air conditioning. I think that's going to be a big part. That was pretty horrible last year in the open source dome. But the stage for the open source presentations this year, I think, is about the same size as the main stage from last year as far as seating availability. So this year at B22, you're just going to see a much larger event. We're at the Miami Beach Convention Center down in South Beach, which is definitely a different vibe and different setup compared to Mana Wynwood, which is where Bitcoin 2021 was. Mana Wynwood, fun fact, it was featured in the Fast and Furious, I believe, 2, where there was a big breakout of like hundreds of cars. And we decided to use that to kind of throw this, hodgepodge of festival and conference all in one. This year, it's a little bit different. We're throwing a music festival and a conference again, a literal music festival on Saturday of the conference. But the venue is definitely more set up for conferences and events like this. So everything will be inside during the main days and industry day, which is the Wednesday of the conference. And then on Saturday, it'll be indoor and outdoor activations, with the outdoor stuff being music festival related. And then some of the music festival will be also inside. So hopefully we can avoid all the problems with the domes from last year.
Right. So it was the issue was like the domes, and then the secondary issue that I had was what I felt like was the lack of focus on the Lightning Network. Like there was definitely some talks, Elizabeth Stark and Lynn Alden had their talk, and we had a couple other technical talks in there, but I almost immediately went to Kristen and said, dude, how the hell can we get more Lightning Network events going? And that was kind of my main complaint about 2021.
Absolutely. I think I see the same thing, as a developer myself and someone that's building on top of the Lightning Network. It's hard to not have Lightning at the forefront of everyone's mind when they think about Bitcoin. I'm even of the mindset now that every upgrade we have for Bitcoin, protocol Bitcoin, has to have some type of component of why it's good for Lightning, because the future of Bitcoin is Lightning. And I think we've worked really hard to resolve that. So, this year's event, from this speaker point of view, presentation point of view, panels point of view, does have a lot more Lightning content than last year. And we've also upped the amount of Lightning in general at the conference. So you'll be able to buy pretty much everything at the conference. I think, in fact, every single vendor that's there is required to take Lightning or have something, even if it's just blue walled on a phone where they can accept Lightning payments. And IBEX is helping set that up for everybody to make it really easy. So you'll be able to buy drinks there. You'll be able to buy stuff in the bazaar at our store. IBEX is putting on a mini Lightning hackathon during the event as well. There's a custom plugin that was made, some WooCommerce plugin that was made to help integrate for all this. So we've gone and tried to get more Lightning being used first and foremost at the conference. Again, thanks to IBEX for helping that out, and pushing all of the vendors, pushing all the people presenting to be talking about Lightning more as well. So in the bazaar, it's kind of an area where there's a number of, a number of different vendors, right? So Crypto Cloaks is in the El Salvador, some from El Salvador is in there. We've got apparel in there, cold storage devices if you want to buy your devices in person instead of over the internet. Some of our favorites like Shamory, right? Bedford FC is going to have some stuff there. We've asked, again, all of them to accept Lightning payments. So, and help set them up and gave them a guide and really kind of help them along the way. We'll also have some book signings where you can buy books. So Tomer Strolight, Alex Gladstein, Lena's got a book. There's I think a couple other books that I can't announce actually, but it'll be there where you can do book signings and buy the books in Lightning. And we even have tattoos that you can get for Lightning that you can do on site. So lots of Lightning enablement from a merchant side.
So it basically sounds like most of the heavy lifting for the vendors is being done, and so most of these vendors most likely won't care about Bitcoin or Lightning themselves. Maybe they will, but I remember a good amount of the vendors last year kind of, being a little bit of annoyed, maybe not super enthused about dealing with Bitcoin so much. Did you have the same experience last year?
No, I personally didn't have that same experience firsthand, but Lightning obviously has its benefits, right? But for merchants who are unfamiliar with Bitcoin in the first place, it is a little bit different, right? And there is that type of educational component you have to have in order to get them excited ahead of time. For instance, like with Carrot, we're throwing a party on Thursday night. The event venue that we're looking at, they're open-minded about Bitcoin. A lot of the employees use Bitcoin, but they've never done anything with the Lightning Network. So we were able to send something over to them, help them with education, everything in advance. And, the more that we educate these people in advance and give them the options and show them the videos and the walkthroughs, it definitely helps a ton, especially with vendors who are completely new to Bitcoin and they're like, hey, I want to convert this Bitcoin into dollars. They probably rely on a service like OpenNode to do that for them. So if they don't know OpenNode exists in the first place, then they don't know that capability exists. And so they're closed-minded to Lightning because they don't understand what's going on in the first place. So we have to do a pretty good job at educating everyone here. But I think we got a much larger head start with this conference compared to the last one in June.
So just because I feel like people don't talk about it enough, I just want to kind of bring it up here. Do you feel like this is both for, this is for everyone now that we have Justifer coming on stage here, hopefully in a second. This is for all three of you. Do you think that Lightning, versus on-chain Bitcoin is far superior of a merchant experience?
I personally do feel that way, but I'm also a super user of the Lightning Network, right? I've got multiple wallets. I've got, non-custodial wallets, custodial wallets. I've got specialty services. I've got sats in 50 different places, right? So it's very different for me personally, but I do feel like it's the speed, the clarity that I've been paid, that I can feel that the customer can walk away knowing that this transaction is now complete, I think is a far better experience than an on-chain experience.
Got it. So let's kind of just jump into kind of more of kind of your history here. Like whenever I get someone onto the podcast, this isn't actually the podcast, but it's close enough. I just, like to get more information about who we're talking to so people listening can kind of get a frame of reference. So how did you get into Bitcoin, dude? Was it recent? Was it a long time ago? What brought you in?
Yeah, my first experience with Bitcoin was back in 2012. I'm a software developer, and lived in San Francisco at that time, and Bitcoin was a pretty popular topic within our circles. So that was a big part of it. And just kind of first got my feet wet, understanding this kind of naturally aligns with my kind of views on general freedom and can see Bitcoin as freedom money. And that's typically what I call Bitcoin, is just freedom money. It's that simple. And avoided it for a couple more years, honestly, after I found out about it. I was busy with my own startups and whatnot, but came back to it maybe 2 or 3 years later, and wanted to find more ways to kind of integrate it into the things that I was building. So my background from a product standpoint is in advertising and marketing. So a lot of the use cases that I was looking for required speed. It required, tiny bits of information. It required, integrating in a lot of different places. And so Bitcoin makes, and especially for Lightning, makes just a ton of sense to match with kind of that background, where speed, where small, tiny payments, right, makes sense, combined with the sovereignty of Bitcoin and the freedom that we have with the on-chain protocol.
I didn't catch if you told us how you got into Lightning in there. I don't think you did.
Yeah, with Lightning, I think it's more, again, just you understand, the advertising background, saying, okay, Bitcoin needs to be fast. So how do we make Bitcoin fast? Bitcoin needs to be to scale the network. A peer-to-peer network scales much better, right? So all of these properties of Lightning, I guess, were super appealing to me. So we started. I've been working with BTC Inc., the company that runs Bitcoin2022, almost 4 years to the date. And so previously I had worked currently I work on an app called Carrot, but previously I had worked on Bitcoin Magazine for a couple of years and ran media operations, helped with, as far back as Bitcoin 2019, and rejigging Bitcoin Magazine to where, we're a heavy amount of contributors, large amount of voices, because I believe that Bitcoin will have many different storylines, right, that appeal to people. So we have to get a lot of different voices and opinions about Bitcoin into Bitcoin Magazine to be successful there. Just having, 2 or 3 authors does not give us the breadth of conversation that we need, unfortunately. So that's my background as far as like BTC Inc. and of course getting into the Lightning Network.
Okay, and it sounds like right around that time is when Carrot got started. I remember the first time I used Carrot is when they did the switch from Bitcoin 2020, which obviously didn't happen, to Bitcoin 2021. Giving everyone X amount of sats. I can't remember right now how much it was, maybe 20,000, and get everyone switched over. Do you want to let everyone know what Carrot is and how it came about?
Yeah, sure. So Carrot is a product that came about simply because we wanted more hands-on experience at BTC Inc. with the Lightning Network. I think we've all seen and all believe that Lightning is a big part of the future for Bitcoin, and we felt like it was underrepresented. So being hands-on is generally the best way to learn about stuff. Myself and a couple other people on the team have technical backgrounds, so we decided that we would put together a prototype back in that summer of 2020. And we spent the first couple of months experimenting a little bit with the idea, not really sure if we were going to make it into anything substantial, to be honest. So we did the reward kickback for the Bitcoin 2022 or 2020, excuse me, folks. And then later in the fall, we did a set of bounties and tasks to experiment, kind of like pay for tasks, pay for bounties type experience, where one of them was contribute to Bitcoin Core for your first time. So we had 7 people take us up on that. The reward for that was 5 million sats. And what we were trying to do was incentivize people who were on the fence about committing to Core with enough money that it was worth it to go through the hoops to contribute to Core. And from there, we did a couple of other experiments before we really kind of said, all right, let's make Carrot into something a little bit more real, and went down the path that we have here. We learned a ton in those early days, a lot of fraud, a lot of not understanding what Lightning is, right? Still, even in 2020, Lightning wasn't nearly as prominent as it is today. So we had a lot of hurdles we had to jump there at the beginning with education. But the past year for Carrot has been pretty tremendous, and we've been able to expand into a mobile app and moved away from kind of a web-only experience. We've spent, of course, a ton of time on fraud, being basically a faucet for a lot of things. Fraud is a pretty big part of that, and I can talk about that more in depth. And the overall ambition for Carrot has grown pretty significantly as well, to where we think that we can help, multiple organizations with rewards programs, earning platforms, giving out sats, even to the point of adding in, decentralized identifiers and credentials into the app, where that enables you to be able to receive sats and maintain some type of privacy as you earn from someone like Bitcoin Magazine as a publisher, or maybe at like an event like Bitcoin2022, where you're scanning a code and earning sats. So there's the Carrot's ambitions nowadays, I think, are to take over the entire world. Whereas, early 2020, or when we first got started, we had no idea really what it would become.
So would you say this idea of Bitcoin rewards is kind of the Trojan horse you kind of need in order to kind of get people interested in Bitcoin at all? Maybe you have, someone like a friend of mine or someone that I've been trying to talk to Bitcoin for years. He says, Chaz, I don't care. But if I could give him like a real, monetary use case, maybe, is that kind of along the lines of what we're thinking here?
Yeah, I think that, my background being publishing, advertising heavy, and obviously working at a company that's primarily a publisher. Most people, I think, know us as Bitcoin Magazine, and then Bitcoin, the conference series after that, even though there's about another 4 or 5 different businesses that, associated with BTC Inc. And because we have such a media focus, I believe that integrating Bitcoin into media is a great long-term strategy for raising awareness about the power of Bitcoin, and especially the power of the Lightning Network. So if we were able to Lightning enable some of the top, 5,000 publishers in the world, our reach can be amplified much larger than, a single podcast, or, just something that like Bitcoin Magazine can do. And so what we hope is that Carrot, being a rewards platform and integrating directly into publishers, and also integrating into things like Twitch streams and YouTube's podcasts, because it's Carrot generally operates on these ideas of codes, which is currently it's an 8-character code. Those are really easy to integrate into all of these different mediums and enable Bitcoin to someone who knows very little about Bitcoin in the first place, if they're the publisher. And publishers are notoriously bad at implementing original technology. I mean, you have your BuzzFeeds, you have your Huffington Post, your Washington Post. The Skim just introduced a loyalty program this week, but 99.9% of the publishers and influencers that were creating content are non-technical. They're not using, tech-forward platforms like Substack or Medium even. And you can even see that those platforms like Substack has Lightning integrated, which is great, but Medium is still so far away from even thinking about this. So I think the Trojan horse of publishing and integrating into newsletters, podcasts, YouTube videos, Twitch streams, things like that is definitely the Trojan horse there.
So a quick little tangent question. What is your favorite non-Carrot rewards platform, if you have one?
That's a great question. probably Lolly. I mean, I like the idea of browser extension shopping. I think it's easy for people to learn about Bitcoin. I do think you give up a little bit too much information. Chrome plugins have their own downsides for how much they reveal about your browsing behavior. But for the average user who's not as concerned about that, who just wants to earn for shopping, I think that these browser extensions are a great way to do that, and it's a pretty easy way to educate people about Bitcoin. So hopefully more Lightning will come to Lolly. Maybe we will have more integrations where you don't have to simply it's not just an e-commerce checkout or something like that gets integrated there. But I am a big fan of the browser extension type earning platforms.
Got it. So kind of Carrot, I think, is a little unique kind of on the Lightning Network specifically, because you're not a merchant that is accepting payments from all your customers. You're kind of the opposite. You're saying, here, everybody, have sats upon us.
Yes.
And so it seems like a very different dynamic when it comes to kind of maintaining a routing node or just a Lightning node in general. Do you or Justifer want to speak on that a bit?
Yeah, I'd love for Justifer to speak to that, actually.
Hi, Flip. Hi, Chaz. Running the routing node has been a really interesting experience because, as you did mention, Carrot is actually sending sats. And I think there's only a few nodes on the Lightning Network that primarily send out payments. And this is a business running on sending out payments, which is usually like a consumer type role, where they would be making purchases. And so since I'm able to work as like a routing node, and we use like sending sats as part of the business model, like I'll pay a small routing fee to actually make the payments get delivered to their destination, but also that inbound liquidity would actually be gained as I send out payments, and so that inbound liquidity can then be sold essentially through routing activity at for a greater amount than the fee that we would pay to actually send out the payment. So there's a small arbitrage to be done.
Yeah, and ultimately we want to provide liquidity back to the network, and hopefully we can find business models around that as we have sats sitting in here waiting to be given out. Most of your expenditures for a business, let's take like your normal businesses, right? Like they're spending 30-40% on marketing, right? They're spending money on advertising. Loyalty rewards programs are part of that marketing spend. So what we would like to do is be taking in companies' marketing budgets, right, and being able to deploy them through their loyalty programs that are enabled with Carrot. That way, there's excess liquidity that we have to offer back out to the network, as opposed to us trying to do something that's like just in time or tiny faucets here and there that are like per campaign or per initiative. So what we'd really like to see is someone coming in with 10 million sats and saying, hey, we'd like to deploy this over the next little bit. How can we also make money on this liquidity, or also make money on this while we're waiting to give out the money? So I think that's going to be an interesting point where we're actively trying to collect large sums of money specifically to provide out to people and get that liquidity out there and moving.
So what I'm kind of hearing is maybe in the future you guys would kind of have more of your kind of revenue based on things happening on the Lightning Network itself. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what we'd hope for. We don't necessarily want to charge end users, of course. We don't necessarily want to take a transaction fee and just be a middleman there. What we'd like to do is provide value to the network and make money by providing true value. For people who want to give out sats, right now we don't take transaction fees from them. We've done a couple of different activations with other people, but ultimately we'd rather them have the Bitcoin sitting on there that we can hopefully then start to use to earn against for liquidity. So similar to carry that you'd make on your PayPal account or something similar to that, right? Where that money is being held by us in order to facilitate your loyalty program.
Okay, and then kind of talking about Bitcoin rewards more generally once again here. Would you say that like Carrots, Lolly, Fold, BitRefill, et cetera, all these different companies, we could list like a dozen probably. Do you think that they have meaningfully moved the needle on Bitcoin adoption overall?
I mean, Fold and Lolly, I think, have gotten large amounts of users at this point. I think Carrot will service 25,000 users this month, at least. We're growing, pretty quickly with that. So, as if I do another double and another double, right, we've got a pretty significant amount of traffic on there and pretty significant influence. 100,000 people a month using the Bitcoin app is still a pretty big deal. Things like BitRefill, I don't know anything about their user numbers, but they definitely are helpful for describing, in proof of concepts and explaining like ideas that could be, further elaborated on with the Lightning Network. Ultimately, we're all getting started on this. I think all of the opportunities for Lightning are in its infancy, and Lightning will need a killer app. We do think that, like with Carrot, again, if we can get on large publishers and get Lightning enable, either reading articles for sats, watching videos for sats, listening to podcasts for sats, going to live events for sats, scanning things in Twitch streams for sats, that we can more quickly grow the user base of Carrot and therefore Lightning, more so than if we were trying to do something that was purely financial, like gift cards or sats back e-commerce opportunities. I think those are super interesting, though.
So we're going to get into kind of Bitcoin gaming at Bitcoin 2022 here in a minute, but I wanted to just kind of mention kind of sats in a gaming context here a little bit, and maybe ask, we have that as an example. We have Carrot rewards, looking at a article or what have you. Many different ways you could, add rewards using Bitcoin. Are there any examples of ideas that have not been kind of taken to their full advantage there, and bringing in more users essentially? Is there anything out there you think should be done that's not being done right now as far as Bitcoin rewards go?
That's a good question. I think referral programs, like native integrations into like referral programs, like something like Viral Loops, or I don't know, there's a bunch of different referral programs out there. I think that's probably the next step. It's really high with fraud. I think that's a big part of what Carrot, because we're generally seen as a faucet in a lot of ways. We fight against fraud. We have to look for signals to basically make sure that people are not trying to rip off these outlets. So everything that's fraud related within Lightning is a pretty big opportunity, and I think that everything with the rewards program is still a pretty big opportunity. We'll see. We'll probably work with that. Carrot specifically will work on those two problems. And then the biggest massive problem, I think it's one that Impervious is looking at as well, is identity over Lightning, and using decentralized identifiers to create like a new single sign-on provider that is, web scale, hot wallet, single sign-on provider. I think Impervious is doing a ton of different stuff. I'm super excited about their reveals here at Bitcoin 2022, but that to me is probably the largest opportunity that exists. And again, that's kind of where Carrot's going. You may think of Carrot as like rewards programs and earn for sats, but ultimately like single sign-on, web scale, hot wallet, integrated with all the different publishers is more of the long-term direction for us.
This is kind of for everyone on the stage here. What's everyone's opinion on Bitcoin gaming overall? This includes Zebedee, Thunder Games. I don't know who else to list after that. I could list some other companies that aren't in the fold anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, we lost at least one. I think with Lightning gaming is such an interesting space where it's an active. It's kind of like reading articles. Like you interact with media publishers pretty frequently. Video games are right after that as far as how often you're engaging with it. So with Bitcoin2022 and trying to work with the video game providers, either the developers like Thunder Games or like Zebedee as a technology provider from their SDK, like those are massive opportunities that we have this entire gaming area at the Bitcoin conference that we put on. We don't recover all the costs for, and we did last year and we did this year, but we put it on just to show off the power of Bitcoin gaming because we believe that it's a big deal. Simply the number of people that play video games, and if we got those games Lightning enabled, would be a massive boost for adoption. Again, similar to how publishing, if we got publishers involved with Lightning, it would be a massive boost for us. There are, e-commerce is another opportunity, and I think a lot of people focus on e-commerce because it's a little bit more easy to be a middleman and make some type of percentage fee there. But the Bitcoin gaming people are doing God's work, in my mind. There is a long road to go, and it's very difficult, and it's very much in control of traditional game publishers that they look at V-Bucks and go, oh, I want something like V-Bucks, or they default to how do I make my own token, right? Or nowadays, of course, they're defaulting to NFTs and how do we monetize NFTs in some way. But you do have the folks like Zebedee, for instance, who are creating a great Lightning-enabled SDK and a wallet that's the experience when engaging with a Zebedee-enabled, source game of some sort, and the Zebedee wallet is a really, really great experience. And hopefully we can use our time at B22 to show that off to people who are of video games and show it off to the people who are coming there, like from the video game vendors. I know personally that we've got a number of the large studios coming to see what we're doing in the gaming space. We'll also have, Cash App is a big Twitch channel, right? And they play video games all day. Cash App being the presenting sponsor of the conference, they're also bringing some influencers to the gaming area so that we can get an audience on Twitch for all of this content as well, from Thunder Games and Zebedee, Fold's AR experience. Even we've got Infinite Fleet, which is a game that's been in the works for a little bit, that's on the Liquid network. We've got a couple other secrets up our sleeve for announcements there too, but hopefully we can get some awareness out through Twitch. Actually, we've got about a 3 million person Twitch reach and about another 5 million of viewers from the streams that we're adding that are specifically for the gaming content.
Got it. Did either of you other guys have any comments on Bitcoin gaming before I move on to my next question here?
No, just that it's really in its nascency, and like we barely scratched the surface, which with
I mean,
all
do you
the
play,
ability and
Evan, do
the
you play
game.
games?
I used to play a lot more games. Nowadays, sometimes I'll play like a big platformer with my partner,
There you go.
or like do like more social games, like some online gaming once in a while. But yeah, I think we're really just scratching the surface on what can be done, and I think it's really understated the effect it could have if a major publisher decides to get in and offer up some sort of connectivity with the Lightning Network. That'd be really exciting, but I don't know. That'd be like also a big risk on a lot of these major publishers. I think in their views.
It is, and I think that that's the feedback that we're getting so far of the people that we've invited. So I unfortunately I can't name names of the companies that are coming, but they're household, game developers that are coming to talk with Lightning people. So I know they're interested, and it's similar to the publishing world where there's 3 or 4 people who are really into Bitcoin or really into Lightning and say, hey, we should try something up, and then you get a 5th one and a 6th one. And you come in with a proof of concept, and next thing you know, like we can actually have the real conversations at scale. But I think we're still a little bit away from that, and the torch is still going to be held by these, Bitcoin-specific gaming companies.
Well, I think it's like a number of factors going on for the game publishers, in my opinion. It's like, first of all, I feel like going to Bitcoin and using Lightning for your microtransactions, that's like thinking a little bit outside of the box. So it's the difficulty of like, first understanding Bitcoin, understanding what Lightning enables, and what the gameplay possibilities that you could explore with. That's like a whole thing in itself. But really, there's just so much noise on the space with all the NFTs. I feel like a lot of the game publishers can wrap their heads around this concept of NFTs more than taking like a leap of faith trying to do like another sort of payment method when dealing with all the big houses. Like I feel like NFTs is almost like aligned with this craze of loot packs we've seen over the last 10, 15 years, and it's like a easier bridge to cross, I would say.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that where does the money come from is a big thing for the game developers. Is it coming from each other, and what does that mean, right? But I think that is great for competitive gaming. We've got, in fact, we've got some cool stuff with Shardbits planned. Shardbits and Thunder Games are doing some DLC content over the gaming stage related to our competitive gaming side, and they don't know where the sats come from. If they can print their own money, then they know where that money comes from, right? And I think the other big thing that the gaming companies still haven't really figured out is how does financial rewards not ruin the game? You got to be really careful, if everything becomes for money and it's not just for fun, or it's the competitive environment, right, is not fun because it's always for money, then that adds a whole new set of incentives for that game. And it could turn people off from being able to play at a competitive level, or being able to spend too much time on it, or whatever. And I think that's been a pretty big concern, not only for the game companies, but even for the Bitcoin companies, of saying, like, how do we not ruin games by introducing sats?
So, like the first example that kind of popped into my head, not necessarily sats, but just the consequences of building a game economy is WoW Gold. I'm sure most people here old enough to know to have played World of Warcraft back in the day know how much gold in that game is farmed, in big, offices with hundreds of people sitting there all day just farming gold and selling it on eBay or whatever. I don't think they can do that anymore, but that used to be the way, right?
RuneScape, right? I mean, I think I put a thing about RuneScape in our Slack channel one day, and like 10 people hit me up and like, oh yeah, I've been RuneScape farming still. I'm like, it's 2022 and you're still RuneScape farming? This is crazy. But that index is high, I think, with Bitcoiners too.
So like it seems like even with a like a token like WoW Gold just being an in-game token that is just tied to some database and has no real hardness to it at all, obviously, can gain that kind of value. Like how difficult would it be to kind of build the game and have sats in it, especially if we're thinking of like an MMO, kind of like the infinite fleet thing that you brought up. Like I just feel like it'd be very, very difficult to have it be literally real money. You know, all of us think Bitcoin's money here, so or you know, at least I think so. But uh, how difficult is that whole process to think through? Like, how much extra, you know, dev time does that add to a game dev that needs to think through the economy at XYZ scale?
Well, most games are not. Let's take like some triple A's like Smash Brothers, like Super Smash Brothers. It was not built with financial incentives at the core of it. So bolting on financial incentives is going to feel awkward, right? Sure, you could add in, okay, you win, so you get whatever the other team put up as a bounty, right? And do like an escrow. But that ultimately does not really, it's not an integration as much as, something bolted on. And I think you really got to go back to the square one and say, how do we build a game with sats at the core of it, sats enablement, and what does that offer to us? If it's real money, then what does this game look like? And the game developers just aren't there. Like they don't know enough about the technology to even to create a truly native experience for it. So, but hopefully, like we do have again like the demos, like Brawl from ZBD Brawl, right, is a great example of a game that looks and feels like Super Smash Brothers in a lot of ways, but has SaaS enablement. That is the first step. Even if that's not perfect, the bolting on is the first step to getting people to think about it. But if you had a native experience that was also a great game, all it takes is just one killer app, one game to really bust through and kind of change the momentum for Lightning gaming.
Has that been a bit of an issue with Lightning gaming, Bitcoin gaming, what have you, that it's been mostly the same use case of it being, oh, here, bet on things, or get sats back if you play my game enough, if you bounce this ball enough, you get some sats that we're taking out of our advertising revenue, and giving it back as sats. Are we still kind of like stupid early in that? You were saying having a native Lightning experience or native Bitcoin experience even. Are we still stuck in this kind of early stage where people are still trying to attach horses to motorized vehicles and thinking that they're smart?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, but it's not thinking they're smart. I think we all know that that's what we're doing, right? If we asked Thunder Games, right, like, do you know that that's all you're doing? I think they would be like, well, yes, we know that that's a real thing. However, there is that small group that is willing to take the bet on building out all of this infrastructure, building out the Lightning Network, contributing back to the Lightning Network over time, that you'll see from the core companies in Bitcoin gaming. And that's massive. And right now, Lightning itself is going through its own, what I'd say, struggles may not be the right word, but I'll use it anyways. We're going through our own, I guess, growing pains of trying to figure out how we develop, the protocol and how we want to shape the network over time, and like what are the best ways to incentivize behaviors on the Lightning Network, zero fee routing, for instance, or spam messages over Tor, right? Like we haven't made all of these decisions yet on how Lightning should even work in a lot of cases. So I think everyone's in the same boat. It's like a torpedo. You go left, you go right, you go left, you go right, you eventually hit your target. You don't go in a straight line. I think that's what we're seeing out of the Lightning community, and hopefully more game developers come on board, they find the correct incentives, and they are financially motivated to continue to contribute back to the Lightning Network. Same way, hopefully, with Carrot or anybody else that's building on top of Lightning. That the larger we get, the more business opportunities that we find, revenue opportunities that we find that can be Lightning enabled natively, then the better. And we'll hopefully, I think the ethos of pretty much everybody in the Lightning space is of contributing and cooperation, honestly. And in fact, the Lightning space and the people in Lightning are my favorite people in Bitcoin because of that.
I find it interesting that like you can add these different game elements that like wouldn't necessarily subtract from the experience of the game. And like the example that I'm thinking of is like adding sats to Counter-Strike, where like you kill an opponent and they actually drop a small sat bounty, which you can choose whether you want to like actually go and potentially expose yourself to like enemies in the game and pick up that bounty, or whether you just leave it and wait for someone else to go for it, and like adding just a new game element from it. And it makes me think of like life is potentially like an infinite game where you're going to optimize for like you can choose between optimizing for like in-game elements like I don't know, some like fancy armor or something, or actually sats, which would be interoperable that you could take out of the game itself.
Absolutely, I think that's a great example, actually, of how it modifies the gameplay, because it's not simply I shot you, therefore I got the sats. It's I shot you, and now I have to go get those sats that are on the ground, right? It's like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like if I knew that the sats were on the other side of those spikes, am I going to go for it or not? Or am I going to hit the spikes and explode all my sats everywhere? I think it's more experiences like that would be a good example of like what we should be looking for in the gaming space for sure.
So previously we were kind of talking about NFTs and kind of their involvement. I'll kind of preface this by saying I don't have a high opinion of NFTs, but let's not have that affect my questioning here. So when a gaming company is looking at how they're going to bootstrap themselves into existence effectively, like how are we going to make our first game or what have you, they have to think about, are we going to go get funding from, someone else and possibly have to give up some piece of ownership? Are we going to try to, pull it out of our own pockets and, possibly go broke and be on the street? Or do we take like some novel approach? And so an approach some of these gaming companies, I'm not going to mention the one that I'm thinking of specifically here because it's kind of a negative thing here, but this particular company chose to kind of lean heavily on NFTs as their funding source. Do you think that there's any negatives to having the NFT be the kind of the vector that you take for funding versus being, maybe a harder path might be a better course to take?
Yeah, I have my own struggles with NFTs in the current market conditions. I think the idea of a token that's unique is cool. I think the idea that people would use that to pay for access and that access is somehow interoperable or that token is interoperable with other things, I think those are dope ideas. I don't think that the current constructs of like I get 30% residuals forever and that's what makes it an NFT and that's all that we built in. It's a backpack, but I get 30% of all the sales forever. I think that that's a cheap way out. And I think that cripples what NFTs could do in theory, or, unique access could do that has some type of market transferability. But I guess the question is, do pre-sales of items in the game make it easier to build the game? We used to pre-sell copies of Command and Conquer, right? 20 years ago. 30 years ago at this point. Pre-sales aren't anything new. So the fact that there's an NFT is the thing that you're selling doesn't. The NFT part of it doesn't even really matter. You're pre-selling some component of the game that you get access to. I can go in the Switch store right now, Nintendo store, and pre-buy a game. In fact, I get the premium game, right? Or I get a skin if I buy that game. This is not like a new concept. And I don't think it's very NFT driven or
Right.
specific, right?
So
yeah, it's fine I personally don't have a problem with it. It's been, pre-sales have been going on forever.
So I guess you're right, and I would agree with all of that. It's maybe less about the pre-sale portion, and maybe more about the kind of trade-offs of bootstrapping yourself. Like, so let's take NFTs out of it, at least somewhat here, and just say, let me rephrase my question entirely. Is there any way for like a game company to kind of fall into pitfalls here when financing that they get so used to the easy money that might come in from an NFT that they start turning to many different forms of financing themselves? So
it's hard. I think that we have probably an unsaid name here that switched networks that rug pulled basically from a promise that they made to people who financially committed, to them in a pre-sale with no recourse, right? And I think that sucks. I think that is a poor decision on the behalf of that publisher by far. That said, is the quick and easy money of I can create an NFT or a pre-sale item and put it out in a marketplace bad? I don't think it's necessarily bad. And as a person who loves free markets, if people know what they're getting into and they're not getting rug pulled and they're not getting bait and switched, then I don't really have any significant personal issues with that. Although I do kind of despise the general mechanics and royalties and the baked in, BS that kind of comes along with these, presumably decentralized platforms that are obviously very, very centralized platforms. I think I balk at the marketplaces where people take advantage of the lack of liquidity in the NFT space, purposely build NFTs to be illiquid, and then manipulate the prices of the NFTs. And if you are building a game where there's only 10,000 or 1,000 of a thing, and you design it to have the mechanics where the value is artificially inflated, I think that's a really big negative. If you're making something like, let's say, Gods Unchained, which is a game similar to like Magic the Gathering that's on Ethereum. I think they maybe even moved away from Ethereum. I don't know. It's been a while. Gods Unchained has millions of available cards. CryptoKitties has 1 million available, different CryptoKitties. There is not the manufactured liquidity crisis. Those should trend to zero unless there's like real demand for those. And I think that's completely okay. Just like Bitcoin started at zero, right? And there's been real demand. I think that all kind of makes sense.
Okay, so I would agree with all of that. Kind of hitting back to Bitcoin 2022 here. So you mentioned we were going to have Thunder Games, Zebedee, and a couple other big ones. Is there? We're going to have some tournaments, you said, as well, right?
Yes. So we've got kind of two or three areas. There's the biggest one is the onstage competitive gaming, where we've got people who actually know how to play video games playing video games against each other for Bitcoin prizes. So we're starting to kind of branch into, like, basically go into competitive esports gaming with Bitcoin brands and trying to inject ourselves into that conversation. So this year, it's basically an exhibition. We're just have a couple of teams playing each other on mainstream games that everyone is, finds it fun to watch. Like me personally, Counter-Strike is not my most fun game. I love that Zebedee has infused and you can shoot people for sats, but I would much rather someone play Madden or FIFA personally. So we are going to have non-Bitcoin focused games with Bitcoin rewards for the competitive people. And then there will also be those same games down in the free play area along with the Bitcoin games as well. Hopefully that way we are giving out like Carrot's going to be giving out sats for you and your friends if you play Smash Brothers. Whoever wins, here's a couple of sats. Congratulations, you beat your friends. But right next to it, you're going to have the Zebedee and the Thunder games and the other Bitcoin specific gaming opportunities. Hopefully, so that people who are into Madden come and learn about all of our other games. It's a different approach than what we did last year, where we only had Bitcoin related games and Bitcoin enabled games. But I think that it's allowed us to bring in some non-endemic Bitcoin companies and get them excited about participation with the conference and learn more about Bitcoin gaming. We also have a scavenger hunt. That there'll be the hunt is kind of spread out all over the conference, but there's an app for that. Where the info booth will be at the gaming area as well. So there's a whole info desk where you can win different prizes and participate in the scavenger hunt and learn more information there as well. So those are the three here. The competitive, the free play, and then the scavenger hunt area.
Perfect. I just wanted to remind everyone listening out there, both today on YouTube and anyone that might hear this on our RSS feed later, you can get a ticket to Bitcoin 2022 by going to b.tc/conference and by using our coupon code Lightning Junkies, all caps. It'll save you some money. So go ahead and do that if that's something that you're looking at doing. April 6th to 9th in Miami, Florida. All right. So now that that's out of the way there, you were kind of mentioning...
It was a great read, by the way. I really appreciated it. It was very convincing.
I'm actually not really good at those sorts of shilly, pitchy things.
I get that. I hate shilling the conference, but I will say we are trying to make this just the coolest thing ever for Bitcoin. And there's a lot of cool Bitcoin experiences. And that, to me, as a hacker, developer, person who wants to experiment, and I think a lot of the core ethos of early Bitcoiners is, let's do this, let's have some fun with it, let's experiment. And I think that's what we're trying to embody a lot of the conference, at least the parts that I've been in. I think everyone can find something good and bad about the event in their own ways, but the majority of us is an organization that's trying to just get Bitcoin more exposure, spread awareness of ideas, hack together, build together, and bring in, the people who can, hopefully move the needle for Bitcoin in a long term. Hopefully everything's good. That's what we want.
And before Jordan Peterson shows up wearing an Ethereum Max shirt.
It's an interesting. I'm not. I don't know much about Jordan Peterson, and I think that there's a lot of people who are very excited about this. To me, it seems as if that is someone who, again, can move the needle from having the awareness and has the cognitive ability to have pretty interesting conversations about Bitcoin. So Tur Demeester will be interviewing him on stage, and I think Tur is a Bitcoiner with a great history and obviously been around forever. So I'm pretty excited to see what comes out of that conversation. Although Jordan Peterson is not someone that I personally actually know very much about, but I know other people are very excited. I do know that. No Floyd Mayweather, no Dogecoin guy getting tackled on the stage. Hopefully this year. Thanks for Ryan Calder to doing that. Hopefully we can stay on topic and just focus on the Bitcoin.
Okay, and then so hitting Bitcoin gaming again, I wanted your all's opinion on this. So I'm sure you guys are aware that Zebedee and Thunder Games, both doing Bitcoin gaming, but taking fairly different approaches overall. Thunder Games is kind of content to kind of build out their games from scratch, kind of building relatively simple casual games. And then Zebedee's, they started with that. They started with a couple of games they made. But then they kind of shifted gears to, pushing their SDK and, trying to get their, get Bitcoin Lightning payments, rewards, whatever, into AAA games, with Counter-Strike being the example here. What do you guys think about the two different approaches? What is your favorite? What, all that, give me your fire hose opinion here. If you all have one.
I'll chime in here. I think the casual gaming route that Thunder Games is taking can have massive impact. The amounts of people that play those games is pretty insane. And if you get the right one and you get the right experience, then there's tremendous upside. The route for Zebedee and SDK has similar, asymmetric benefits there. You get into one game, then it really changes the world for them. And I think that both strategies are important to have. It allows both of them to be competitive in the sense that like they're both representing gaming and Bitcoin and Lightning, but really not competitive, right, and complementary for each other. And I know the teams are friends with each other, right? We're all, again, I think everyone in Lightning gaming is pretty friendly with each other, but it allows them to kind of build off each other and learn from each other because ultimately their end game is different, right? And without having, if they were both working on an SDK or if they were both working on, play to earn games or casual games, then I think it would be a waste of space and they should probably combine right now. We're that early with Bitcoin gaming that I don't think we can afford to be highly competitive with each other unless there was like, a really great reason, like the game idea is fantastic or something like that. And we're competing against like two fantastic games against each other. It's not where we're at yet, unfortunately. Although Zebedee or Thunder Games has Snake now, and Snake, very popular game. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, like looking at the ecosystem of Lightning games, like I think there's plenty of room for innovation before any type of competition happens. Like looking at the two different types, like Thunder Games is, like creating its own game, whereas like Zebedee is focused on the SDK and sort of like at a higher level. But I think that Carrot is pretty interesting because it essentially requires no changes to the game at all. Just if you want to introduce an 8-character code into your game, like suddenly you've got something that is now Lightning enabled without having to make any material changes to the game itself.
Yeah, and with speaking of Carrot too, we've got some changes that you don't even need the codes, and there's this programmatic access as well. That's really it's interesting, and I can talk more about that if we wanted to. But the gaming space is going to take 100 more developers to even find a killer app. The gaming is so hard. There's so many game developers out there. So, we're going to take a lot of swings with the gaming. I'm super thankful that Jack exists, Jack Everett in this case, that Simon, right, the CEO over at Zebedee, that they're taking the mantle and bringing teams to go and do this, and they're finding the funding, and they're finding success for it too. I think that they've been both companies have been great representatives for the Bitcoin space.
Alrighty then. So we're kind of contrasting between these two different companies here. Would you say you guys have any particular favorite game, or is having you guys choose favorites not fair?
I actually play a fair bit of the games. I don't consider myself to be a big gamer. I play a lot of Civilization still. I would love to get SaaS-enabled Civilization somehow. Every time I take over a religion or something, I get paid. Need to figure that out. But for the gaming side, what's my favorite? Sat Stacker. That's not even really a game. That's just like a casino, basically. But I love it. I've drained that thing of sat so many times. I don't know. I'm actually very hopeful that the Snake game comes out, that people will enjoy it.
Just to note, it's already out. It came out on Wednesday. Sats. Yep. Just to let everyone know. Okay, so kind of moving up. Well, I actually wanted to ask about this. Which Civ do you play?
6.
6. Okay, I've gotten like 300 or 400 hours on Civ 5.
I have about 300 hours on 5. I've played since the beginning, so I've got hundreds of hours on each of them. But I probably have. I should probably look, but it's too many hours on 6 at this point.
Got it. Hey, Evan and Justifer, what is your favorite non-Bitcoin game, probably? Or Bitcoin game, if you want.
For me, it's Rocket League. It's just it's a blast. Very simple, and very community and team oriented. Yeah, love it.
For me, just playing competitive games. Like my favorite's FIFA. Big soccer fan. But I've also gotten like really big into GTA when I was younger. At one point, first of all, the immersive world, just open world, do anything. Big fan of those kind of games. But at one point, I had an Oculus headset with it set up with GTA 5, and that was a whole lot of fun. From getting like the butterflies in your stomach from doing like stunt jumps, flying, it's a whole lot of fun.
We've got 2 influencers, Twitch influencers, YouTubers, Jobless Garrett and Autumn, that are coming. Both of them are GTA players, and they're both pretty funny with that. And it's GTA is one of those, it'll live forever. It's such an interesting game. We also have FIFA available to play for Sats. So you can come and compete. That was a big request internally of like mainstream games to have. And I think we're going to have Rocket League as well. We're actually still working on that. So if you're into Rocket League, Super Smash Brothers, Rocket League, FIFA, Madden, we think we're going to have you covered in those kind of games at the conference.
Sweet.
So I'm a nerd, and I'm kind of running the questions here, so I get to ask this question if I want. So I've been really obsessed with the Steam Deck lately. For those who don't know, the Steam Deck is a piece of hardware from Valve that is going to be running Arch Linux, and is going to be a bit of a tinkerer's dream. And anyone that has a large Steam library might also like it as well. But besides the obvious gaming piece here, I just kind of wanted to ask a nerd question out of left field here. Do you guys think having more Linux gaming is a very kind of interesting development, especially the fact that we have Valve kind of leading the charge, and we even have Microsoft coming in and adding support for their Game Pass service, and all that. Do you feel like the future of gaming could be on Linux?
That's a good question. I don't know immediately, other than, let's say, hardware choices, right? In Linux being able to be run on so many different types of hardware, that would probably be the biggest game changer, where you can have more control over the operating system in order to, scope the hardware correctly for it. Versus Windows, if I have to use a Windows box, then there's licensing and there's system requirements I can't necessarily get rid of unless I am Microsoft. So I think that's great. Same applies for Macs there. But I don't know. I mean, it's not like Linux gaming has not been around for a long time. I think I got my start as a system admin a long time ago with BSDs and Linux, and games then sucked, and but people have wanted the games on Linux forever, but no one's ever really done anything too terribly much. So maybe having the Steam Deck being a unique piece of hardware is, maybe that's the path for sure, because of the easy to interoperate with the operating system, or pull stuff out of the operating system willy-nilly. Maybe that could be the game changer.
Just to let everyone know, I will be the first dork to put a Bitcoin node and a Lightning node onto my Steam Deck for absolutely no reason.
You can play Amboss. I don't know what Amboss you can play on it, but we'll get an Amboss game through Keysend messages that you can play with other people on your Steam Deck. I think that'd be a good use case.
I think that's funny. You should say that, because I think we should go ahead and get a quick update on Zeus and Amboss, if you guys don't mind. How's Amboss been doing, Justifer? Has there been any new updates lately?
We're closing in on 4,000 logged in users onto Amboss, which is over 20% of the public nodes on the network. So that's a huge milestone for us, and we've been in the middle of hiring. So soon I'll be able to announce some of the folks that we've brought on board. So that's been my life recently. As for Amboss, very excited to show you guys some new features, and also some new faces behind the brand.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And Evan, what has been going on with Zeus? I've been seeing quite a few updates coming through.
Yeah, staying busy. We've got a couple of new contributors in the mix, and we've just been continuing to ship. So, we put 0.60 out, which was our redesign. We've got a beta out for the next version, 0.6.1, that's got a whole bunch of cool stuff in it, including new PIN passwords, like a duress PIN that'll nuke all your connection settings if you're in a tight spot, expanded on URL supports. It's pretty much been endless, and we've got a whole lot more cool features on the way, and I'm hoping that this new one we're working on can see the light of day in the next couple of weeks. But no shortage of excitement. It's been good.
Perfect. Okay. So we're kind of reaching towards the end of the show here, kind of running out of the questions I had out here in front of me. Was there anything else about Bitcoin 2022 you wanted to get into before we closed out here?
Again, Lightning should be everywhere. The open source development should be, it's easy to find. When you walk in, it'll be on your right. There will be plenty of great talks going on there. The Sound Money Music Fest, which every person that's participating in that took at least, I forget the percentage, but a large percentage in Bitcoin or all of it in Bitcoin. That's, Logic, Deadmau5, Run the Jewels, which is a big one. CL and Audrey Nuna. CL's big Korean, very interested, Korean female rapper. She's actually, it's pretty dope music. It's new to me, but I've been really into it. And there'll be plenty of opportunities for sats to be earned and gotten and spent and everything at this conference. And I hope that you come, everyone should come, and you enjoy yourselves and you meet other Bitcoiners, and we all talk about the cool stuff that we want to build, and we figure out how to build it together. Because I posted this on Twitter, a survey, and the survey results were a little bit closer than I thought, but it was, you're building or you bitching. And, there's a lot of bitching and a lot of people want to sit back and complain, but I think what we see in the Bitcoin community, there's a lot of builders too, and I think that a lot of them will be hopefully together in Miami in just 2 weeks. So if you're one of those builders and not one of those bitchers, come and find me in the back, the gaming, the back left of the conference in the gaming area. We've got about 10,000 square feet, big screens. There'll be noise. You'll be able to find me there. I look exactly like I look in my profile picture on Twitter.
Perfect. Do you want to let all the listeners know how they can find you on Twitter and elsewhere, as well as Carrot?
Yeah, so for me personally, Flip_Abagnale on Twitter, and Earn Carrot on Twitter as well. And if you want to download our app and check it out, it's a great way to earn a little bit of Bitcoin. It's earncarrot.com/download. And if you have the Carrot app at the conference, we'll also have plenty of QRs and NFC things and links that you can scan, tap, and click to earn sats. So lots of opportunities there.
Perfect. Did you guys, Evan and Justifer, do you have any questions here before we close out?
No, I think I'm very, very much looking forward to Bitcoin 2022 and seeing what we've been working on at Carrot happen at Bitcoin 2022.
Yeah, likewise. I'm so stoked it's just around the corner, and it's going to be quite a time.
Hopefully we can go an entire year in between conferences. I'm really tired of planning conferences. I will say that. It's a lot of work, but it's worthwhile.
Well, I just want to thank you for showing up here, Flip. I apologize for last week where I completely biffed it. And I'm also sorry to Santoshi. We were not able to get to your question or comment. I'm kind of needing to get to my day job here. So we're kind of closing things out. So my bad. And so to everyone else, I want to thank you for showing up and listening to us talk. But for now, I'll see y'all on the Lightning Network.
See ya.
Peace, y'all.